Thank you. Again, Pennsylvania had the largest, once upon a time, had one of the largest numbers, if not the largest numbers of political prisoners in the whole country. The Move group, the Move family was incarcerated. We had the Philly Five, members of the Black Panther Party and the Black Unity Council, who have been incarcerated since 1970. The most well-known or famous of the Philly Five being Brother Russell Maroon Schultz, who passed away, just a couple of months ago. Then we have probably the most famous Black political prisoner within the United States, is also a resident of Pennsylvania, incarcerated within Pennsylvania, and also a former member of the Black Panther Party from out of Philadelphia, and that's Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. Then we have Brother Jojo Bowen, Muhammad Abdul Mumit, a member of the Black Panther Party as well as the Black Liberation Army, who's been incarcerated now for 50 years. So Pennsylvania had the notoriety of not just having, and think about this, of not just having the largest number of juveniles sentenced to do life, but Pennsylvania also had the largest number of political prisoners, namely Black political prisoners. Now, since the 2000 and I would say about 2017 or 18, different groupings of political prisoners have been released. The members of the Move family have been released. Brother Maroon was granted compassionate release because he was suffering from a terminal illness, and subsequently he died at home. But there's so many political prisoners who remain incarcerated. Out of the Philly Five, Brother Alvin Joyner, Brother Otto, as we called him, he passed away in prison. He never was able to come home. We have three remaining members out of the Philly Five who still remain incarcerated: Robert Joyner, Fred Burton, and Hugh Williams. So, and we definitely have to deal with Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. So we have a lot of political prisoners within Pennsylvania yet to be released, but we have political prisoners all across this country who have been incarcerated. One of the political prisoners that we have been working hard to organize around and to push forward to demand his immediate release is a brother named Kamal Siddiqui, formerly known as Freddie Hilton, who was a member of the Black Panther Party as well as the Black Liberation Army. He just celebrated his 69th birthday last week. So again, we say free all political prisoners. We think it's very important that this be done. I'm going to take a moment. Brother Brian Francisco is the Deputy National Chairman for our party. Brother Brian is going to be designated as a co-host for this event to kind of help us to facilitate and get past some things here. So Brian, if you could just bear with me for a moment.
No problem.
Okay, do you have everything now? I think you should have got that designation so you could let people in and kind of help us to get through this process.
Yes.
All right, thanks, brother. Greatly appreciate your help as always. One of the things I like to do now is to share screen and direct people to a section within our website that focuses on political prisons, so you can see for yourself some of the information available, and you could take it upon yourself to support either by joining a campaign or writing a letter or making a phone call or whatever it is, or donating some money, whatever it is that you need to do. So I'm going to do a share screen. I'm going to share that information. If you all could just bear with me for one moment. Okay, and I hope you all can see this particular share screen. So we have what we call within our party, the National Political Prisoners Support Committee. We also have members of our party who are incarcerated, namely within the state of Texas and Pennsylvania. And so we have chapters there, and we do everything we can.
Yes, I could number 7, please.
We do everything we can to support our party members who are also incarcerated. Here, you could go to this particular site. There's some information I mentioned earlier. There was a birthday celebration February the 19th for Brother Kamal Siddiqui, and it was very successful. We were able to raise some funds to help him. But we want to encourage people to get involved, and we want to encourage people to join the Free Kamal Siddiqui campaign. There's some information. There's a link tree that you can connect with. And then also there's information about the campaign to free Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. You can scroll down and there's some information about the National Jericho Movement. Jericho is an umbrella organization. And as you can clearly see, its focus is the amnesty and freedom for all political prisoners, Black political prisoners, brown political prisoners, white political prisoners, all political prisoners, right? Jericho is a very dynamic group and organization. The chairperson, or one of the chairpersons for Jericho now, is a comrade by the name of Jihad Abdul Muhammad, himself a former political prisoner, member of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. So again, we just want to encourage people. We have to support our warriors. We have to support our incarcerated people, regardless of the political narrative that dominates the airwaves and that dominates the internet in denial of political prisoners. We know that political prisoners do indeed exist, that our movement today and our flexibility today in order to enjoy what we call civil rights and some basic fundamental human rights didn't just come about because of nonviolent protests. It also came about because of armed resistance, and it also came about because of massive urban rebellion and unrest. To put it simply, the progress that Dr. King and other leaders of the civil rights movement, the progress that they were able to make, we believe was helped and facilitated immensely because of the work and because of the commitment of the soldiers on the street and the people who took it upon themselves to physically fight back. And so it presented a moment of urgency as far as, you know, how the system was going to respond. So without the effectiveness of people like Malcolm and people like the Black Panther Party, then the effectiveness of Dr. King and others would have been controlled and actually probably not that effective at all. So, and it's not to take away from their courage and not to take away from their commitment. We're just dealing with politics and dealing with history and dealing with the struggle of movements for freedom and liberation as they develop in real life situations. Nonviolence is a good tactic. It may be good strategically from time to time, but your enemies and adversaries are not going to submit to your pleas for peace and nonviolence unless they know that somewhere in the background, there's another contingent amongst your group who's willing to fight if those pleas are not heard. And so we should never forget that. That's just keeping it real. All right, so we want to move on. And I want to thank everybody again for you know, getting up and getting it together and, you know, agreeing to be part of this. We're gonna get out of this screen share for this, and we're gonna go to some other things as well. So we're gonna go through two different presentations. One is a presentation regarding the party as you signed up, 10th year anniversary. I'm just going to go over how the party developed, how we got started, and some of the things that we've been doing over the last decade. And then we're going to do, as part of that, we're going to do specifically a review for the year 2021. You just bear with us for one moment. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm doing a screen share now, and I hope everyone can see it. Brian, can you see the
Yes.
screen share?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. All right, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this the way that we normally would do it, but I'll try. Can you still see it?
Yes, but it's in the same format, but yes, we can still see it.
Is it a single page or the same format?
It's the same format.
Okay. All right, so rather than try to do the traditional slideshow in a single frame format, we're gonna just do what we normally do here. But you all can see it, so we're gonna start. All right, so again, welcome. This is Malcolm X Founders Day 2022, 10th year anniversary, founding of the NAIP. And so this is the content. This annual gathering to commemorate the founding of the party. We were founded February 21st, 2012. And it also commemorates the assassination of Malcolm X on February 21st of 1965. This year also marks the 10th year anniversary of the new African Independence Party. Join us for a review and discussion concerning the last 10 years and what challenges and work lies ahead as we continue to fight for liberation and self-determination. Note, due to the impact of COVID-19, we will not be holding our annual brunch, but instead encourage people to join in for the Zoom event and discussion. Grab a sandwich or cook your own meal at the convenience of your home. So we're going to start and get through it. So 2012 to 2013, if you can see the screen. So I had some concerns about what was happening politically within the Black community here in Pittsburgh, in Western Pennsylvania, and the country as well. I had been a part of other formations in the past. As many of you know, I had been a member of the Black Panther Party, the Philadelphia chapter. I had been incarcerated for several years. I also have been a member of the National Black Independent Political Party. And so I had some sense of what we should be doing or what direction we needed to be headed politically. I was still learning some things myself. I had always committed myself towards Black freedom and self-determination. And but I was still growing and I was still learning. And so around 2011 or so, I also was involved with another formation called the formerly incarcerated group, dealing with people who have been formerly incarcerated or convicted, the FICPM, we called ourselves at that time, formerly incarcerated and convicted people's movement. And so we were trying to make some inroads to help formerly incarcerated and convicted people around policy issues. And so I had a chance to, travel with the formation, network with other brothers and sisters from around the country. We went to LA, we went to San Francisco. We also, even I was a part of this, part of the group at one point did a protest march across the Pettus Bridge, the same Pettus Bridge down in Alabama, that have been the site of the bloody beatdown of former Congressman John Lewis and others when they were organizing and protesting around voting rights issues. And so the comrades from the formerly incarcerated and convicted people's movement, we made a trip to that particular area. And we actually did a reverse march to say that even though the Voting Rights Act had been passed in 1965, and even though supposedly it was applicable to all people who were citizens of the United States of America or people who were eligible to vote, that it did not apply to people who have been formally convicted and formally incarcerated, that we represented that group within American society that according to the law, the laws that existed in different states around the country would not be allowed to vote. So there was a march and walk stage across the Pettus Bridge, but it was done in a reverse manner, right? To emphasize that progress had not really been made, especially for this growing segment, unfortunately, of the Black community, the brown community, and the poor community. One of the things that I proposed as a member of the FICPM, I was part of the steering committee at that point, was that perhaps formerly incarcerated and convicted people needed to have our own political PAC or PAC, Political Action Committee, or we need to have our own political party. So people thought that, okay, perhaps maybe it might be best for us just to develop a political action committee that could represent the interests of formerly incarcerated people. So that was a good idea. That seemed to be a pretty reasonable way to approach the problem. I also had a chance to hear about a formation that had been led and that was being organized by a brother named Charles Barron, Brother Charles Barron up in New York, also a former member of the Black Panther Party. He and his wife, Inez Barron, among others, had started to organize something called the Freedom Party.
Yeah, Brother Khalid,
Yeah,
we're getting some feedback.
I turned it off.
okay, yeah, it was someone else's phone, so I think it's been fixed. So Brother Charles Barron, along with his wife and comrade, Sister Inez Barron, among others, they had proceeded to start something called the Freedom Party, based up in New York. So I heard about the Freedom Party. I said, okay, this would be a great opportunity. So what I had hoped to do was to start the Pennsylvania chapter of the Freedom Party, because that made a lot of sense at the time. But unfortunately, what I learned from talking with Brother Charles from time to time is that there was some internal conflict and contradiction. And so the Freedom Party basically never realized its full potential. It got off on a pretty good start. Brother Charles provided solid principled leadership. But at some point, there was some internal contradictions and conflict. And so it never was able to firmly establish itself in the New York area. And therefore, it never would have been able to branch out and start to develop other chapters and branches around the country. Well, I said, okay, I'm still looking for some type of vehicle that can help us to build and to move forward independent Black politics. Well, I had always considered myself to be a citizen of the Republic of New Africa, even though I wasn't a citizen of the RNA on paper. I had always embraced the ideas and the principles of the Republic of New Africa, as far as Black people having the right to self-determination, and Black people, even though many of us don't see ourselves this way, being actually a nation within a nation. So many of us may not see ourselves as a nation within a nation. Unfortunately, that's the way we are treated, right? We are treated as a collective. We are victims of racism and white supremacy, and it's not an individual perception, it's a collective perception. It's a perception that the Black collective, that we're not as valued as other citizens and residents here within the United States of America, that our rights are not to be respected to the same degree or to the same extent. And that's not an individual personal choice or an individual personal expression, right? Those are institutional and structural expressions, right? And behaviors. And so the system looks at us collectively, regardless of our differences in terms of where we work, where we live, whether we own a business or we work for someone else, or whether we make $30,000 a year, we make $30 million a year. So that being said, I said, okay, Republic of New Africa, I like the Republic of New Africa. I like the political identity that they have developed. But I also come from the Black Panther Party. And so I come from that perspective as well. And I have critiques of both the Republic of New Africa and the Black Panther Party. But I also was able to recognize the huge contributions that both of these formations have made. And I also recognize the contributions of the formations that preceded them, whether we talk about the African Blood Brotherhood, whether we talk about the Nation of Islam, whether we talk about the Congress of African People, whether we talk about the contributions of religious figures like Noble Drew Ali, and certainly the contributions of Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, in the group that I consider to, have developed some of the best organizers on the planet, SNCC, Stokely Carmichael, and Diane Nash, and people like that. So I said, okay, we got to come up with some independent Black political vehicle. And so at some point I said, all right, I talked with people who I respected here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And I said, all right, New African Independence Party, right? And so when should this start? And I said, well, Malcolm X had always taught us that we needed to be independent in our politics. And that, fundamentally, we needed to look out for ourselves collectively as Black people, right? And that we should not throw ourselves into the Democratic Party's camp, nor the Republican Party's camp. We need to develop our own. So I said, all right, well, that was the politics of Malcolm X. So officially, our party is going to start on the anniversary of Malcolm's assassination. We want to demonstrate through founding the party on this day, officially, that even though Malcolm X had died, his politics continued to live on through us, through the people who would create this independent Black political party, a radical revolutionary Black political party, in the spirit of the African Blood Brotherhood and SNCC, and the Black Panther Party from Lowndes County, that was started by people like Stokely Carmichael and Ella Baker and the great Fannie Lou Hamer. The Black Panther Party started by Bobby Seale and Huey Newton in Oakland in 1966. The Republic of New Africa started 2 years later in 1968, March of 1968. So we wanted to honor all these great brothers and sisters whose shoulders we stood upon and we continue to stand upon. And so we started this organization officially February 21st of 2012. And the first thing that I actually did was to, I didn't know too much about Facebook, but I started a Facebook page. So as you can see, if you go to our party's page and you check out about, and they do the page transparency thing where they let you know everything about the page, you can see officially this page was created February 28th of 2012. So that was the first thing I did, was to do Facebook. I didn't know nothing about Facebook. I think one of my younger daughters, it might have been Amira, probably was Amira. Amira probably gave me some pointers about Facebook. And so I did what I thought I needed to do. So that was the beginning of our organization. And just to give you some historic, just to give you some perspective in terms of how this thing developed. It was an idea. The first thing was about formerly incarcerated and convicted people. Then the second thing was about Black people in general and how we needed to move forward politically. No disrespect to Obama and the people who support President Obama, but based on my understanding, I saw President Obama as just a gatekeeper. He basically was the manager for the US empire, right? He just happened to have a Black and brown face. And now that doesn't take away from his personal accomplishments and achievements, and that doesn't take away from his family, but it's just dealing with the reality right? And we have to move away from just being grateful for representation and symbolism and imagery. You know, we have to move towards real substantive power, right? The things that really matter to help us and help our people become the people that we were truly meant to be. So that's how it started. And then we move on to, if I can, 2014. So in 2014, there's some photos here you can take a look at. There was a rally. I think this was up on the Hill. It's a section in Pittsburgh called the Hill District. It's a large community rather called the Hill District. And this, where I'm standing with this bullhorn, is a place we call Freedom Corner, right? And it's a place where traditionally in Pittsburgh, a lot of the civil rights marches and demonstrations, when people would originally congregate, they would congregate starting there up on the hill in this particular area. And so that area historically has become known as Freedom Corner. So there was a rally concerning police reform and accountability. And I don't remember exactly the date, but this photo was taken in this is a 2014 photo. And then there's another photo where I'm speaking, where you see it says speaking near CCAC. CCAC stands for Community College Allegheny County. And I'm looking at the picture, I see a sister who actually became our first secretary. She passed away, a sister named Nazor. She's in the crowd. And then Sister Zori, who is our Minister for Social Justice, she's standing there, she's taking a picture, right? So she's there, I'm speaking, I got on my traditional blue, black jacket, and Nazor's there on the other side, and Zori's taking the picture. And this was 2014, and I was speaking right across the street from Community College, Allegheny County. Then to the bottom, we were supporting the fight for 15, you know, the fight for a minimum of $15 an hour for workers. Unfortunately, as we know, I think the federal minimum wage is still $7.25.
Federal's 15.
Is the federal minimum wage is 15 now? Okay, so the federal minimum wage is $15. Finally, the state minimum wage for Pennsylvania, unfortunately, is still $7.25. So for those of you who live in other states, push hard for your state, if it hasn't already done so, to raise the minimum wage for your state. And we need to even push harder that the federal minimum wage be raised again soon, so it could be much more commensurate, you know, with the cost of living, especially in light of like the impact of the more recent inflation. And then, you know, there's a protest march there. I think we were protesting across a bridge somewhere. I'm not sure whether that's Zori or that's your daughter.
That was my daughter, but that was like the Women's March for Freedom when we did that big march on the north side.
Oh, so this is part of the Women's March for Peace march, one of those years. Okay. And then above is my main guy here, Brother Brian. Me and Brother Brian attended a Kwanzaa celebration in 2014. I think this was at the Kingsley Center in the eastern part of Pittsburgh. And then at the very top was one of the first pieces of literature that we put out. I put out a card in terms of who we are. There's a critique of the two-party system and some other stuff. And we would pass that out to people and talk to people about our organization. And then we come to 2015. So now what I'm doing with 2015, I'm going to list some of the things that we're actually doing, just to give you a sense of the growth and development. So January the 10th, there was an incident at one of the public libraries. We used to have political education classes every, yeah, some of us here, we're laughing about this. We used to have PE classes or political education classes every week, every Saturday. And we used to use the public libraries in order to convene our classes. And, you know, just to give folks some ideas in terms of how disciplined we had to be and how focused we had to be, We held political education classes every week for almost 4 years, every Saturday, no matter whether 2 people showed up or 20 people showed up, we held our classes. And we did that intentionally and purposely. And we drew lessons and inspirations from the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party held weekly political education classes, and they really benefited the community. They sharpened the consciousness of the community, and they sharpened the skills and consciousness of the members of the party as well. But anyway, so we held PE classes every week. And in 2015, January the 10th, we had an incident at one of the public libraries where one of the members of the party, she was having an exchange with one of the librarians about how we were being treated. And the librarian panicked and she called the police on us. And the police showed up, and it could have really blown up into a serious confrontation. And this was not too long after, I do believe, the murder of Michael Brown, right? And about 2 years or so, maybe 2 years out from the murder of Trayvon Martin. So it was a very tense situation. Subsequently, we filed a complaint with the Pittsburgh Human Relations Commission. I went to a couple of hearings, and it was kind of resolved. We were kicked out of the library. We were told we couldn't use the library system for a certain amount of time. And I think we came back and pushed back against that. And once everything was settled, and once they understood that we were determined to do what we needed to do, we've never had a problem. If we want to use a library anywhere in Pittsburgh, Allegheny County today, it's never an issue. They accommodate us, they let us do what we need to do, and it's all good. But we had to go through that. And then May the 16th, we had our, this may have been our first one, Malcolm X commemoration project. Then July the 25th, myself, Brian, and some other party members and some young folks from an organization that I was working with, we all went up to the Black Lives Matter conference at Cleveland State University. August the 9th, we organized a major protest and demonstration against the FOP. We called it the National Mobilization Against Police Brutality and the Fraternal Order of Police. And why? Well, the FOP, many of you may not know this, but the Fraternal Order of Police was actually founded in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? 100 years before. And they wanted to have their anniversary conference on the same weekend that was the anniversary of the murder of Mike Brown from Ferguson, Missouri. So we said, oh no, you can't do that. You can't bring that to Pittsburgh. So we got together with other community groups, organizations. People would come to our PE classes, and we organized what we called the National Mobilization Against Police Brutality and the FOP. And we had a series of protests and demonstrations in downtown Pittsburgh at the site and at the hotels and motels where the FOP were convening for their centennial conference or convention. September the 29th, or I'm sorry, September the 1st, we presented our first issue of our newsletter, which is called New African Panther. September the 29th, we participated again in the Women's Walk for Peace. October the 10th, Brother Doug and I went down to Washington, D.C. to participate in the Million Man March 20th anniversary. And from May to November, we waged a campaign. I got on the ballot to run for Allegheny County Council District 13. And so, I'll show you some of the, these are some of the visuals for that particular year. And I apologize if you can't see some of this stuff as well as I would like you to see it. So we got kicked out of the library for a certain amount of time. We found a new home. There was a civil rights organization connected to the local NAACP. So we held our PE classes and meetings there. This is a picture. This is Zori, this is Ramona standing in front of the office that we were using at that time. We also These are some photos here of the march and demonstration and rally, the national mobilization against the FOP. And these are some photos of the trip we made to Cleveland State University for the first Black Lives Matter conference. This is from the march. This is for the Women's March for Peace. And this is Washington, D.C. And this is one of the campaign posters, and I was campaigning for the Allegheny County Council District 13, which unfortunately we did not win, but it put us on the map. A lot of people were surprised. We actually got 12% of the vote. People were surprised that an independent, radical, revolutionary Black political party in Allegheny County would be able to get any votes at all. So it put us on the map in terms of being an electoral political force. And we've been building since then. Here's some other photos. We were doing outreach out in the Homewood section of Pittsburgh. This was the press conference we had in 2015 when we basically were announcing that we were going to have the mobilization against the FOP. And this is at what we call the Hill House. The Hill House is a community center, a huge community center in the Hill District. And there was a birthday celebration for Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. And we participated in that. As a matter of fact, I was part of the panel. Then we had some rallies and protests. I'm not sure what the incident was, but it was around police brutality. And then here, Sister Zoe and Brother Brian, they were casing out the land that we were using for Freedom Garden. We had to do the cleanup eventually. And then the Women's Walk for Peace. And then Juneteenth for 2015. And then in the corner at the bottom, you'll see some of the campaigning I was doing at that time. I was going to different communities within the district that I was trying to win. And I was meeting with different community groups and having conversations with them. Yeah, that was up in Garfield, I think, at that time. Yeah. And 2016, so I'll read the narrative. In 2016, January the 8th, representing the party, I went to Temple University at the Black Radical Conference at Temple University. On February 21st of 2016, we had the Malcolm X Founders Day brunch. On April the 9th, a group of us, Sister Emma, Sister Lisa, and myself, we went up to New York, to Harlem, New York, to participate in the Black is Back Coalition's conference up in New York. It was at that time that we actually discussed joining the Black is Back Coalition, and subsequently we did. April 13th, we were part of a huge anti-Donald Trump protest in downtown Pittsburgh. April 16th, we were part of the Advocates for Justice March and Rally. And May the 20th, representing the party, I made a trip up to New York, John Jay College, and I was part of the Left Forum. And I was part of a panel dealing with independent politics and the Bernie Sanders campaign. And so I was fortunate at that time because I had a chance to meet a brother who, we've been very close comrades, Brother Nnamdi Lumumba from Ujima People's Progress Party based out of Baltimore, Maryland. Had a chance to meet Jill Stein from the Green Party at that time. She was a candidate for the presidency. Had a chance to also touch base with another representative from the Green Party. I can see his face, I just can't remember his name, and forgive me, I'm sure somebody will remember his name. Had a chance to talk with a brother named Algier. I can't remember his last name. He represents Socialist Alternative. Oh, Howie Hawkins from the Green Party. Cool guy. Had a chance to touch base with Howie Hawkins, and had a chance to meet Rukia Lumumba from the New African People's Organization. And her father was Brother Chokwe Lumumba, who had became the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. And her brother is now Chokwe Antar Lumumba, who's the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. So I had a chance to meet Rukia or Rakaya up in New York. We all were part of this panel dealing with independent politics in the Bernie Sanders campaign. And this was at the Left Forum up in New York at John Jay College. I think I also went back and represented the party the following year as well. July the 7th through the 10th, a contingent of us, I don't remember exactly who, I know Sister Lisa was there, Doug, I don't know, Kathy went, I'm not sure who went, but we made a trip up to the National Black United Front's convention up in Brooklyn, New York. And then August the 20th, we had our regular conference, which we called the New African Black Unity and Solidarity Conference. And then we also, because we were now part of the Black is Back Coalition, in October of 2016, we held the Pennsylvania State Black Political Convention here in Pittsburgh. And then in October, Brother Doug and I, we made a trip out to Oakland, California for the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party. And I had a chance to see some of my comrades from the Black Panther Party. And that was a blessing and just a chance to network and see folks again and to, you know, kind of continue that legacy as much as we possibly can. Now, these are some of the visuals from 2016. So the Black Radical Collective in Philly, there was a discussion and there was a showing and profiling of some of the works of Emory Douglas in the Black Panther Party. And this was actually held, not at Temple University, but this part with the pictures and the profiling and his artwork, that was held at what we call the Church of the Advocate up in Philadelphia. And then, as you can see, we had our brunch. Unlike today, which is a Zoom type of thing, we had our actual brunch. And we had it at a place on the north side of Pittsburgh called Arnold's Tea. And then, as you can see the pictures over to the corner, where it says BIBC at Harlem, that's Sister Emma, Sister Lisa, standing somewhere up in New York. And we're on our way to the Black is Back conference up in Harlem. And the thing about the Harlem conference, and you know, like you see the picture there, people sitting down eating. We're eating, well, let me tell you the backstory. We had a Black Power conference, right, with people from all around the country. And it was a great conference, right? Great hosts, great facilitators, great brothers and sisters. So when it was time for us to eat lunch, now keep in mind, we in Harlem. It was time for us to eat lunch. We wound up eating Chinese food. Now, I ain't got nothing against eat. I like Chinese food, but I'm saying, like, how we get Chinese food in the Black Power Conference in Harlem, New York, right? And we all started laughing about it. Everybody thought it was funny. And you know, we just moved on. And then so that was one of the things that we had to deal with. And then some of the comrades who I met at the conference, Brother Zaki Baruti from Universal African Peoples Organization from out of Missouri. And then in Pennsylvania, we had the convention here, people I met. And then one of the members of our party, Sister Chandra's there. And then these are some of the people I was speaking of earlier from the Left Forum, Brother Nambi, the brother there from Socialist Alternative, Brother Sister Rukaya Lumumba, Howie Hawkins, and myself. This is a protest and demonstration where we protested against the prison warden, Holmesburg. I'm saying Holmesburg. Well, I'm having a flashback, Philly stuff. Woo, getting old. All right, not Holmesburg. Definitely not Holmesburg. We're talking about definitely not Holmesburg, folks. Those who know me well, I'm sure you busting out laughing. All right, Allegheny County Jail, right? We're having a demonstration. I wish I would have been standing downtown trying to protest against Holmesburg. They'd have carted me off somewhere. Having to protest a demonstration against Allegheny County Jail against the warden because of the horrendous conditions that existed in the jail. At one point, Allegheny County Jail in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, per capita had the highest number of inmate deaths than any county jail in the country. So think about the county jails that are probably 4 or 5 times bigger, like Holmesburg, like Cook County Jail out of Cook County, Illinois. Even with, you know, with the largeness of those particular facilities, it was Allegheny County Prison that per capita had the highest number of inmate deaths at that point. So we were having a protest march and demonstration in downtown Pittsburgh. Let me go back again. I'm missing a lot of this stuff because we got so many pictures. Here, this is, we were working on Freedom Garden, and Sister Lisa, myself, and another sister. And then over to the right, oh yeah, sure is. And then in the bottom is the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California. And that's Sister Charlotte there, Charlotte O'Neill. Her husband used to be one of the captains for Kansas City chapter of the Black Panther Party. And unfortunately, he was one of the brothers, one of the comrades who was targeted by COINTELPRO, and he went underground. Eventually, he left the United States. He has not been back to the United States since about 1969. He still lives in Tanzania. Him and Charlotte, they, you know, the government didn't want her, but they wanted her husband. And they were a very powerful, dynamic, revolutionary couple. And so they left together. And now she's able to return back to the country because she's not wanted for anything. So she comes back from time to time. She does cultural shows, cultural performances, and she comes to the reunions that we have within the Black Panther Party. Matter of fact, she was in Pittsburgh about 3 months ago. She was in Pittsburgh, so we had a chance to talk. But when they got to Tanzania, they set up something that was very similar to the survival programs that they knew within the Black Panther Party. And it's been ongoing for the last 50 years. Other visuals, Freedom Garden, working in the garden, using those skills that we had inherited from our ancestors when they were working for free. But now we're working to provide some food, some nutritious food for ourselves and for our community through Freedom Garden. Also, again, the Left Forum, John Jay College, myself, Brother Namdi, and another comrade from the Redeemer People's Progress Party, Brother Brandon. And then later on, myself, Sister Keisha, and Brother Doug, we went to the National Black Political Empowerment Movement sponsored by Universal African Peoples Organization up in Ferguson, Missouri. So we made the trip up to Ferguson, Missouri to meet and network with the people up there. And folks, I'm gonna talk for a little while longer. I'm gonna take a break and get me some food. Don't get mad at me, but I gotta get some, I'm drinking water now. I'm gonna get some food in my belly and I'm gonna keep doing this. Other visuals, this was 1917. I mean, not 1917, 2017. So now we're moving just more towards the visual stuff. This is 2017, different meetings. You know, we're just growing more and more. We're part of the Black is Back Coalition, so we participated in the March on the White House, November the 4th and the 5th, at a march, and we had a conference down in Washington, D.C., along with comrades like Chairman Amalia Satilla and the late, great Brother Glenn Ford from the Black Agenda Report. And it was serious, but it was fun. And I remember afterwards, we all went out to get something to eat, spirited discussion, spirited analysis. I'm listening and learning from these brothers and sisters in attendance as well. And very important, if you look to the bottom, you'll see that Sister Emma and Brother Doug had ran for judge of elections for their respective districts, and they won. And so we ran on the ballot of the NAIP, and we won. We campaigned on the ballot of the NAIP, and we won, right? The independent Black radical political party. And let me see, moving into 2018, we had our commemoration project and Claim Malcolm X Day, and the theme was Black women in the freedom movement. And so we had some sisters representing different groups of organizations as well as members of our party who were part of a panel discussion. And so 2018 was very profound. If you look to the bottom, you'll see a picture of a young man there. That's Antoine Rose II, who was murdered by police officers in a township or borough called East Pittsburgh. And that set off a chain of events. Now, if you look at the sequence, we had started organizing and calling for the creation of a civilian police review board for Allegheny County before Brother Antoine Rose was murdered. But after he was murdered, that just accelerated the demand and accelerated the call. We had been calling for the creation of the civilian police review board for quite some time, right? Because what we recognize about the place that we live is that it was very confusing and very disorganized in terms of how to interact with these multiple police departments. Allegheny County probably has more municipalities than any other county within the United States. Allegheny County literally has 129 different municipalities. And what that means is that in Allegheny County, and I mean this literally, you could walk out your home, you could walk in any direction, get on a bicycle in any direction, or get in your car, catch a bus, and in every 5 or 10 miles, you might be in a whole different municipality's jurisdiction. And many of these municipalities have their own police forces as well. So Allegheny County has 129 different municipalities with over 100 different police forces. And many of these police departments are part-time because these municipalities are not very wealthy. And some of these cops actually work as police in 2 different, sometimes 3 different municipalities. So they may work as a cop in one city or township, like 9 to 1, and work somewhere else 2 to 8, and then work another place the late shift, right? Wearing 3 different uniforms, and you could be driving and you might see the same dude. You know, you might go to work and see him working here, then later on you go out and you see the same cop wearing a different uniform representing a whole different municipality, right? And very, very confusing. A lot of these municipalities are poor, right? The police forces are many of them are poorly trained. And because of the demographics, many of them are, and I'm gonna say probably, because I can't put this label on everybody, but I'm saying probably based on the track record that we have here, many of these police departments are probably saturated with a lot of racist police officers, right? And so we would demand the creation of a comprehensive civilian police review board that would have jurisdiction over all police forces within Allegheny County. Unfortunately, Brother Antoine Rose II was murdered by a police officer in the East Pittsburgh area, not Pittsburgh, not the city of Pittsburgh, but a borough called East Pittsburgh. Ironically, the police officer that murdered Antoine Rose had been cited and fired by the University of Pittsburgh's police force, right? And then he went on and got a job working for East Pittsburgh, and then subsequently he murdered this young man. So, you know, this also was part of the work that we had been doing. Around 2018, we also recognized the link and the connection between not just political activism and electoral politics, but union organizing and organizing the Black working community, the Black workforce, Black workers. So one of the things that we did, we went out, we started our own union. So we have a union called the New African Workers Union as well. We had a conference that focused on workers in the workforce, and that helped us to move in that direction. Okay, 2018, so other things we did, we also went to the New African Nation Day sponsored by the Republic of New Africa. We participated, just like we participated in the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party, we also participated in the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Republic of New Africa. And so a contingent of members of the party, we made a trip up to Detroit, and it was very enlightening. Great people, great workshops, presentations, spirited discussion about the New African Independence Movement and where we should be headed. We also participated in the electoral campaign school that had been put together through the Black is Back Coalition, which we are members of the Black is Back Coalition, in which as a representative of the party, I'm part of the Black is Back Coalition's National Steering Committee as well. And so, I played an integral part in participating in this electoral campaign score, as I have done since its very inception, trying to lend as much as I can to the discussion and to the lecture around electoral politics, what it takes to run for office in your particular city or county or state, or running on the federal level, and making sure that your issues around electoral politics are firmly connected and firmly rooted in the work that you do within your community as far as revolution and social justice and radical change and transformation. We're not just running candidates to be running candidates, and we're not just running candidates so we can occupy some black face or brown face within the scheme of white supremacy and capitalism, right? We want to make sure that as we push and we advocate, we're pushing and advocating for revolution and radical change and transformation. Again, as I said earlier, we have to move beyond imagery and just representation and symbolism. We have to focus on substance, and anything dealing with substance means that it has to be connected to power. (2019) busy year in 2019. We participated in the Afrikan Independence Day in Philadelphia. We made a trip to Philly for that. And personally, I had a chance to see some comrades of mine from the Black Panther Party and some other formations that I'm familiar with, and also to see some of my family as always. We also, as part of the Black is Back Coalition, we again, participated in the marches and the demonstrations in Washington, D.C. And we finally got some additional traction around the creation of a civilian police review board, and it went up to vote in 2019, but unfortunately it was struck down. But it came back up again in 2020, and it was finally passed. It didn't include the things that we had originally crafted. It didn't include the things that had originally came from the community. I forgot to mention that as we were moving forward around the Civilian Police Review Board, we held a series of community meetings in different public libraries and different other spaces around Allegheny County. And then we settled in one particular library in Allegheny County, and we held regular meetings, I think every other week or every month in that particular space, to collect information from the people and to get a better sense of what it is that they wanted as far as a substantive civilian police review board. We also continued to work around the issue of reparations. And so we actually petitioned the city of Pittsburgh and held what we believe to be the first ever public hearing regarding reparations for Black people within the city of Pittsburgh. And so as you can see, myself, Sister Lisa, and some other people from the party. Let me see. And around this time, Brother Doug Connor was campaigning to become a councilman in a borough called Swissvale, where he's a resident. And so we were campaigning for Brother Doug. Unfortunately, we didn't win that race. He came in 4th in the number of votes, and it was the top 3 vote getters who actually were put on the council. But we came in pretty close, and so put a lot of work and effort and energy, and it was a great campaign, a great learning experience. We got the word out about the party, about our politics, and we touched base with the people from the community as well. Also during 2019, there was an incident that jumped off on the north side of Pittsburgh involving 2 young women who were attacked by the owners and workers within a convenience store. And this also set off a chain of events, which led to a group of us in the community, we occupied the convenience store gas station. We took over the lot, we shut it down. That was the first time that I could recall that Black people, for the most part, had ever shut down a business in Pittsburgh. We effectively shut it down. I mean, we shut it down where it finally was taken over by new owners. And we shut it down for months, not just for the weekend. We shut it down for months, where for months, no business at all, right? And so the two young women, I'm not sure of the outcome of their case, but I know the men who had attacked them were charged. They were arrested and charged. I'm not sure if there's any civil liability issues that come out of their case. And again, but the people came out in mass, and the party played a pivotal role in helping to organize and to facilitate this process. And these are also some other visuals from 2019. As I mentioned earlier, we started a union. So we have our own union called the New African Workers Union, and we're a bona fide union. We're a 501c5 organization. We're a labor organization, and it's separate from our party. But I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. We take organizing the Black working class very serious. So it's just not rhetoric for us. We are members of the Black working class. Our party is a working class party. None of us are millionaires. We work, or we have worked before, right? Some of us have been small business owners and things of that nature. But we're a Black working class party, and so we take it seriously. So we received the invitation to participate in the Working While Black Expo, which was being convened by the National Black Worker Center. And so we participated. We, a contingent of us, several of us, we went to Coppin State University for a series of workshops and discussions regarding the status of Black workers across the United States. And so here is a labor organizer and leader people may be familiar with, Bill Fletcher. He's doing a presentation, and we're, sitting around listening to him and all that. And then we were doing some caucusing and doing some other meeting stuff. This was at Coppin State University in Baltimore. Later on that year, backtrack, I mentioned the gas station situation. Here, thank you very much. Here's the station was an Exxon station. So we had a press conference in Raleigh. It was basically facilitated mostly by the women, the Black women who came out in full force. The brothers, we just tried to be there to back up and to support them as much as we possibly could. You'll see myself in the background. You'll see the sisters up front. There's myself in the background. There's another brother, civil rights activist, Tim Stevens from the NAACP is in the background. Another brother from the NAACP is here as well. Then I also made a trip, Doug and I made a trip back to Ferguson, Missouri on the anniversary, the 5th year anniversary of the murder of Mike Brown. And so we had a chance to, to talk. As a matter of fact, I met his dad. I did meet his mom, but I had a chance to talk and meet his father. Had a chance to meet people who knew him. I had a chance to, go visit where he actually lived, on Canfield. They have a memorial. They have a memorial for Mike. They have a memorial that's engraved in the sidewalk, right, for Mike Brown as well. Here's the thing about Ferguson, Missouri. The people who came out to protest the murder of Mike Brown were his family, his friends, his neighbors, the people who knew him, and it was all types of people, right? It was not a professional group of so-called activists, right? Those people came later. One of my criticisms of the so-called Black Lives Matter movement is that they were very opportunistic in seizing upon the energy, right, and the organizing that came out of the murder of Mike Brown. And they seized upon it, and some of them, not all of them, they used it in the wrong way. They used it as a stepping stone for their so-called professional activist careers. And so they went on to become well-paid spokespeople. They went on to write books and to do speaking tours and to, get a whole bunch of acclaim, right? But the people who actually came out, who supported Mike Brown and his mom and his dad and his stepdad, and his siblings, because he left behind younger siblings as well. Those were the real people from his community, and the people from St. Louis who traveled from St. Louis to come out. You know, Ferguson is a suburb. Think about if you're like in Pittsburgh, PA, for example, Ferguson is like Monroeville. You know what I mean? That's how far it is. It's like about the same distance. It's like, you know, you got St. Louis, Missouri, you got Ferguson. So up in Pittsburgh, we got Monroeville, right? If you're in the Philly area, you got Philadelphia, and you might have Coatesville. Think about it that way, right? So the people came out, right? These are the people who knew this young man, who loved this young man, right? And they were the ones who were the original protesters and demonstrators. They were the ones who organized the rebellion. The other people came later. So, and we should never forget that. And now, folks, we're winding down on this part. Some of the visuals from 2020. 2020 is when COVID hit us, and it hit everybody hard, including the members of the party, the NAIP. So in the early part of 2020, if you can see this, I was asked to speak and represent the party. This when there was a lot of tension involving the United States and Iran. And so I spoke at an anti-war rally. And this was the early part of 2020. And then later on, we continued to organize. You know, we had two major campaigns. One was a campaign for the creation of a civilian police review board, and the other one was a campaign around reparations for Black folks in the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And then at the bottom, you'll see some of the protests and demonstrations. In the middle, you'll see one of Sister Ramona at that time. She was leading some protests and demonstrations. And then you'll see on either side, one, I had my mask off, and then I had my mask on. These were protests and demonstrations that Brother Doug and I actually participated in. I remember this very well. We were coming through downtown Pittsburgh. And then last but not least, we had our annual conference, the New African Black Unity and Solidarity Conference. And we featured Brother Namdi, another sister from the Black Alliance for Peace, Brother Charles Barron, who at that point was a New York State Assemblyman. You know, he's now a council person for the city of New York. Brother Yusef Shakur, a comrade of mine. Remember earlier I talked about what led to the formation of the NAIP, me being part of the formerly incarcerated and convicted people's movement. Well, Brother Yusef, he was part of that movement as well. He was a former gang member from the streets of Detroit who turned his life around and became a revolutionary, part of the New African Independence Movement. And he, you know, wrote some books, went on to school. He's a community activist, he's a community organizer. So he was a featured panelist at this point as well. And then my comrade from up in Ferguson, Missouri, Brother Zaki Baruti from the Universal African Peoples Organization. And so we were very busy. As you can see, we've had a very busy year. Now, what I like to do at this moment, I like to take a quick break. I'd like to answer any questions here, any comments before we do a year in review for 2021. And in between the questions and comments, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm gonna get a little bit of food. All right, so I'm gonna stop the share screen. Okay. Any questions, comments? Don, what's up, man?
Hey, Khalid, how you doing?
I'm doing good. What's
Great.
happening?
Great presentation. So I know we spoke at the Labor and Community for an Independent Party meeting last week. And I thought you had said that the Community Police Commission had not passed, but now it did, but it wasn't exactly what you wanted. Now I'm in Cleveland, Ohio area, south of, and we did get to pass our Community Police Commission, citizens on that board. So But ours started out with a consent decree, which was brought into Cleveland. The Department of Justice, after the 137 shots when 61 police cars chased down 2 African Americans back in 2012, I believe. So that's why we had a consent decree, which mandated a civilian review board for the police. So now that that consent decree is over or ending, we had to take it to the ballot to make that a permanent entity and be funded in that by the city. So it did pass, which was a victory. A lot of people got together, pushing that. We went out door to door and all that, and plus at the polls. So it's not as strong as you want ever. That's the problem. We know that. How is yours lacking? How is your particular ordinance lacking, if I might ask?
Well, I'll be brief because I'm trying to get some of this food in my belly, Don. But listen, the major areas that most of these review boards are lacking in when it comes to really being effective to do what it is that the community would like for them to do are, number one, issues of subpoena power, right? Number two, issues of political representation, because oftentimes the boards become instruments of the chief executive in office, which means whoever the mayor is, right? And they also become the instrument of whoever the city council person is. Okay, so we have boards where after everything is said and done, the mayor and city council or the chief executive of the county or commissioners of the county, depending on your county structure, they make the final decision in terms of who the appointments are going to be to the board. That's it. That's something that has to be ended. We have to bring that to an end. Representation has to emanate from the community, and it has to definitely represent those segments within the community that have been disproportionately most impacted by police violence and misconduct. So then we're talking about Black, brown, poor people, marginalized elements within those communities of people, such as Muslims, people from the LGBTQ community, and young people, period. Those are the people who 9 times out of 10 are going to get beat up by the police, right? So we have to make sure that the boards, whatever the board is, whatever the number, that those boards represent those particular groupings of people. So the issue around subpoena power and the issue around political representation are crucial. Now, another related issue is funding, right? The boards have to be adequately funded. They should not be underfunded, because if they're underfunded, then that means they're going to be understaffed, which means they're going to be underperforming. So, and also what we were fighting for in the earlier part of the presentation was around the creation of a civilian police review board for our county. We had already waged the battle some decades before to establish a civilian police review board for the city of Pittsburgh. That came about because of the murder of Johnny Gamage in 1995. But that board suffers the same inadequacies that I just described. That board continues to have issues around subpoena power and whether or not it can be enforced. See, listen, the main obstacle to any powerful civilian police review board is not necessarily the mayor or the city council, it's the FOP, right? It's the Fraternal Order of Police or whatever police union is in your area. Now, I know if you're here like in Philly or most of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, it's the Fraternal Order of Police or the FOP. If you're in the New Jersey, New York area, it might be the PBA, which is the Police Benevolence Association. If you're on the West Coast, it might be a little bit of everything. But the FOP is the largest police union in the country, in the world, actually, because I don't think China nor Russia has a police union. So the FOP is the largest police union in the world. And it was founded by 2 police officers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 100 years, a little over 100 years ago, right? Yes, it was founded in Pittsburgh, right? So the real work has to be directed towards the FOP, and not just the FOP, but the auxiliary groups that are part of the FOP. Like the FOP, they have the doctors and lawyers. Well, I shouldn't say doctors, pardon me for that. They have the families of police officers, the wives of police officers, right? That's part of the FOP's auxiliary group, right? They have court officers who support the FOP. They have judges who support the FOP. They have politicians who support the FOP. What I say to people is this: if any politician or any judge is campaigning and they're trying to get your vote, and if they have on the screen, if they advertise it on TV or it pops up on media that they are being sponsored by the FOP or that they support the FOP, don't vote for that person, and make it clear that you don't vote for people who support, right, a armed faction of the government that has a history of brutalizing Black, brown, and poor people. Make it clear that you will not give that candidate your vote. Make it clear that you don't support the FOP. Because listen, many of us don't pay attention, but next time you watch some of these political ads, because folks are running for office now, they brag about being supported by the FOP. They brag about their connection to the Fraternal Order of Police, because for them, that's a badge of honor. Well, for people who are on the suffering end, who are on the end that receive that disproportionate violence from different police departments, that should be a clue that this is not the candidate that we should support. I'm turning off the video because I'm eating this food and I don't want to be impolite. But next question, comment. I'll look in the chat. Brother Doug, what's up, bro? Any other comments? I will say this, I wish you guys could be here. We're having what? Oh man, we're having a lot of stuff. We're having a serious brunch.
Grits and eggs, bacon, sausage, chicken. Butter buns, raisin bread, salad, fruit.
Salad, fruit, grits, eggs, bacon, sausage, chicken. What else we got? Salad. Oh, we got everything. Steak. Yeah. Any other questions or comments before we get to the final section?
Yes, I say, colleague, we have a district attorney here in Pittsburgh that, just really supports the cops, and they support him.
Yeah. That's true. Very true.
We tried to get him out of office, but it wasn't too successful.
Yeah. Well, I know everyone is on a schedule. And we were supposed to end officially at 1 o'clock. We got off to a late start and humbly apologize. We had some technical difficulties getting set up. What I'm gonna do now is get into the last part of this, which is just a year in review for 2021. And just bear with me again. Okay. I'm about to do the share screen. And I hope everyone can see it. Brian, can you see the share screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to try to stay as close as we possibly can to the schedule. And so what we're doing now is what we call the year in review, 2021 activities and events. And excuse me, I lost the page here. Okay, I'll list it. We had Founders Day in February. We had a rally and picket in support of the Amazon workers in March. We had a free Mumia rally in April. And for May Day, we had a May Day rally and food distribution. We had Free Palestine emergency rally in May. We had our Malcolm X programs in May. And then we also had an online Zoom meeting regarding the campaign for the Civilian Police Review Board. And we had Juneteenth celebrations and community outreach. We do that every year. And we had a Zoom event, the People's Campaign for Reparations and Black Self-Determination in September. And then we had our annual conference in October. And then we had one of our members who was running for the school board up in St. Paul, Minnesota in November. So even though we had to deal with COVID-19, we still try to remain as active as possible. So we're going to go through it. Malcolm X Founders Day, the event we're having now, we had last year. Again, constricted, couldn't have the regular brunch with the community because of COVID. Later on, we, through our union, through the New African Workers Union, as well as the party, we responded to the call to support the Amazon workers down south in Bessemer, Alabama, in their courageous organizing and work to create a union. So we held a rally and picket up here in Pittsburgh, which was very well attended, in order to support their effort down in Alabama. And we had other groups and formations that came out, they responded to our call, but this was initiated through our union. And then in April, along with other formations, including Socialist Alternative, the Green Party, and Party for Socialism and Liberation, we had a free Mumia rally. And it was held in April because actually April the 24th, I do believe is actually Brother Mumia's birthday. I know Brother Mumia, I know his birthday is in April. I think it's the 24th, 21st, 24th, one of those. And so, and again, for May Day, we held a rally and a food distribution. And this was really this was really due to Brother Doug, Brother Mitchell, they basically, got all the food stuff together, organized all the stuff, unloaded the trucks. They did most of the heavy work and got it to the site. They took food boxes to different communities in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. They went to people's houses and went to apartment buildings. We had the rally. We basically distributed food boxes on site. So cars were coming by. So we would just, take it out to people's cars. But Doug and Mitch and them, they took it to people's cribs. They took it to their homes. So we were able to distribute quite a few boxes of food. We did a really good job. Then we had an emergency rally in support of the Palestinian struggle, our brothers and sisters from Palestine. And this was in response to, again, the incursions of the Israeli government as far as continuing to occupy and displace the Palestinians. So in collaboration with some other formations, we got together and we had this emergency rally in support of freedom for the Palestinians. And then we had a short program. Again, everything is constricted because of COVID. Where do we go from here? Originally, it should have been 3 of us speaking. Brother Robert Rice from Ohio, one of our members out there, he couldn't make it. So me and Brother Brian, we kind of held it down. And just as they say, a community and panel, a lively and informative discussion. And Sister Zori was able to connect us with this initiative. Sister Zori is the Minister for Social Justice. She was able to connect us with this initiative around a new civilian police review board for the city of Pittsburgh. One that would have the things that we spoke of earlier, one that would have more power when it comes to subpoena power, would be much more representative of the community and things of that nature. So along with some other formations, we joined this coalition to make that happen. And we needed to get a certain number of signatures in order to have this issue put on the ballot. And unfortunately, we did not make it. And so there were some lessons to be learned from that. We did a lot of work along with some other formations, but we have to be honest. There were other formations who, based on their rhetoric and based on their lip service, should have been out in the street to help us to do this work, and they were not. They did not participate for their own political reasons, which I'm not going to get into this afternoon. But it had nothing to do with anything that was righteous, right? It had everything to do with stuff that's petty and kind of silly and kind of stupid, to be quite honest with you. But we may come back to this again to try to get this initiative put on the ballot so the voters in Pittsburgh can make a choice. And we had a Zoom meeting about the reparations campaign for the city of Pittsburgh. And then we had our regular conference again, which featured Sister Claire Cohen, Dr. Claire Cohen, and she was talking about national healthcare programs and Medicare for all. And Brother Nnamdi Lumumba from Ujima People's Progress Party. The theme was what's going on, examining the multitude of pressing issues confronting and impacting the Black community domestically as well as internationally. And then we had Sister Ashaki Benta from the national, she's a national organizer from the National Black Liberation Movement Unity Initiative. Sister Erica Keynes, she's part of the coordinating committee for the Black Alliance for Peace. She spoke, and then I spoke as well. And this is a very good conference. I really enjoyed the speakers. I really enjoyed the information that they shared with the audience. And it was very powerful. And then last but certainly not least, one of our members out in Minnesota Sister Jennifer McPherson, she ran for a school board seat. Unfortunately, in her case, she didn't win, but she came in very strong. Again, it required, I think, the top 3 or 4, and she came in right on the edge, but she was able to garner about 11,000 votes, right? So she did a tremendous job. And I forgot to mention, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually was on one of her broadcasts. She does a show from time to time, and she invited me to speak, or she invited me to be part of a panel, along with some people from the Minnesota area, including one of the state representatives from Minnesota. And it was a very, very lively and engaging panel. And I look forward to meeting those brothers and sisters in person, you know, from her panel group, from her panel discussion. And I hope that they will consider joining our party. And I hope they will consider getting involved in some of the work that we plan on doing in the future. So, and to wrap it up, these are the affiliated groups and organizations that we are part of. The Black is Back Coalition, the Labor and Community for Independent Party, and the National Black Liberation Movement Unity Initiative. So I'm gonna stop there. This is the end of it. I'm gonna get me some more food, and I'll entertain any questions that people may have for comments. What's up, Doug?
What's up, bro? I'm a little under the weather, man. Back issue again, but yeah.
Get some
I'm here,
rest,
bro.
man. Yeah, get some rest.
It's,
Any other questions or comments, y'all?
You read the last comment.
Hey, Brother Raheem, this is Quincy Coles. It's been a minute.
Hey.
Hey, sir. Thank you for putting this together. Appreciate everybody being on the line. My question was, in terms of like with joining the party, you know, what does that look like in terms of, I know we've spoken on it kind of in the past meetings. You know, you leave your one party to join the NAIP. We talked about, you know, how we push for candidates to, you know, follow our views and whatnot. But on paper, are we just independents? Is the party, you know, is the party name what we identify as? Like, what's that look like on paper?
Good question. So, let me get a sip of water first. I'm eating some steak. I don't want to be disrespectful, y'all. Now, I know this is Zoom. I'm trying to be mindful because everybody ain't eating steak and you ain't eating the good food that we're eating over here since Captain's house. But look. So yeah, so that's a good question. So look, it depends on where you are, right? We encourage people to register as members of the NAIP. All right. Well, you can register as a member of the NAIP anywhere, in Pennsylvania, anywhere. You're not just restricted to the state of Pennsylvania, Allegheny County. You can register as a member of the NAIP anywhere. All you have to do is go to your board of elections, or you can go online and you can change your registration. Right now, they may not have a box that says the name of your particular party. If they have that, put NAIP. If they don't have it and it has independent, check independent. Okay, but you should register as a member of the NAIP. In terms of the membership within the party, we have different, I call them levels or types of members. So we have a lot of people who are members of the party through social media, Facebook. You go online, we got thousands of members all over the state, all over the country, literally, right? We have people who call themselves members of the party in I don't know how many states around the country. Are they really active? Most of them are. Some are, right? And then we have people who formally join the party. And when I say formally, they fill out the membership form and application. They pay their dues when they can, right? And they send in their application. They're members on file. So if somebody would have called and said, this person a member of the NAIP? And I would say, well, I could probably say generally yes. You know, I would have to check and see, well, are they listed on social media as a member? Okay. But the bona fide members on file are the members who filled out their membership form application and sent it in. But then we have members who did all of that. They on social media, they fill out their membership form. And when you go to their local boards of election, they're listed as members of the NAIP or they're listed as independent. So I hope that answers your question, or part of it.
Mhm. Yes, it does. It does.
More than one organization.
And then, you know, taking it a step further, if you had an individual who wanted to run for a certain seat and they were a member of the party, I guess as advertised, it would just be NAIP or they're running as an independent.
Exactly. They were running as NAIP or they run as independent. Now, here's the other thing. In certain jurisdictions around the United States, you could run for political office under the designation of nonpartisan, right? So in certain places in the South, for example, you could run as nonpartisan. In California, I think the entire state of California has a nonpartisan delegation or designation, rather, right? So you could be a member of the NAIP, but when you run for office, you don't have to run as NAIP. You could run as nonpartisan. Now you gotta be careful with that, you know what I mean? But you can do that. So nonpartisan is independent, but that's just the designation that they use in certain jurisdictions. In Ohio, in certain places, you could run as a nonpartisan candidate.
And then would we still do classes for like the newcomers, or do you
Yep.
guys do a yearly thing?
Well, we don't do the PE classes the way we used to do them. So what I'm working on now is having an orientation session. Excuse me. Having an orientation session for new members. And it would be 2 weeks. And then from there, we get into a little bit more structured PE class.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brother Raheem.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate talking with you. So listen,
Likewise.
so where are you located again?
Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh, Swissville.
Swissville, right, okay. Oh, I remember now. I remember now, okay. Good.
What's his name? That looks like Quincy.
I hear you, Miss Emma. You're the one who got.
There it
Shout out to
is.
Miss Emma.
I
Mhm.
haven't seen you in ages.
That's right, I remember
I've known
now.
him since he was a little boy.
Mhm.
Yeah, she
Hi, Quincy. How's everybody?
Everybody's well. Everybody's well. Everybody's healthy.
All right.
I remember Miss Emma literally years ago came to the house, was talking to me and my dad about how she had joined the party.
Mhm.
I'm a little bit late to the party, but she broke it down, and I was floored by everything she had to say.
Mhm. Yeah, Miss Emma's on it, bro, all the time. Any other questions, any other comments, y'all, before we close it?
Brother Khalid, could you speak a little bit about the current situation in Russia?
Ah, okay. Well, first of all, let me let me say this. I'm definitely not an expert on the Russian-Ukraine situation, so I'll just give the basic stuff. The Soviet Republic broke up several years ago. Russia was the core of the Soviet Socialist Republic. Some of the former members of the Soviet Socialist Republic are now members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. Russia is concerned about the security in this region. It's concerned about its national security. And that NATO continues to aggressively expand into Russian territories and areas that previously had been under the Soviet Socialist Republic agreement. I would strongly recommend that people do two things to draw their own conclusions about the issue. Re-examine the Soviet Union US crisis regarding Cuba from the early 1960s, when Cuba, because Cuba was part of the Socialist Soviet Republic's circle of influence, or satellites. Okay, that literally, there was talk about Cuba, for example. Cuba is 90 miles away from the coast of the United States. There was talk of Cuba, having some missile sites built there, right? And the whole uproar,
Cuban Missile Crisis.
that's what they call it, the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? I want you to re-examine that. And then I want people to examine or re-examine NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that came about after the end of World War II. What was the purpose of NATO? And what does NATO do? What has it done since the end of World War II? And what does it continue to do to this very day? And whose interest and purpose does it really serve? So we have to look at issues around geopolitics, national security, post-World War II era, post-World War II politics, imperialism. What is imperialism? And when we look at World War II, but you can go back 20 years before World War II and look at even World War I. And who were the main players involved in World War I and World War II? And what was really at stake? I think we need to really think about that more. What I contend is that World War I and World War II, and a lot of these conflicts are extensions or a continuation of the 405-year-old war that has been going on among and between various European, basically white powers, over colonial control over the people and resources, mainly the people and resources of color throughout the world. So they continue to fight about who's going to control what. And basically the what is you and I, and where we live, and what we produce, and what we think, and what we create, right? So I would just suggest that people think about it even more, and that we not get caught up into the political frenzy that oftentimes happens when presidents of this country find themselves in unpopular periods during their presidency. And in order to avoid controversy, or in order to position themselves for possible re-election, they create international crises, or they involve the country in some international quagmire in order to distract away from the criticism of their own administration. And then everybody becomes an American for that brief period of time. Everybody's a good American during the crises, right? And then everybody should fly the red, white, and blue. You know, like, this is not my government. And I I got to make this clear. This is not my government. And I can't speak for brown people. I can't speak for the Latino nation. I can't speak for the Hispanic Latino nation. I can't speak for the Asian nation. I can't speak for the Pacific Islander nation. But I'm gonna say something for the Black nation and make it clear. Black folks, this is not your government. This is not our government. If it were your government, then you would not still be fighting for the right to vote. If it were your government, then you would not be fearful of police vehicles and cars when they approach you or your family, if it were your government. This is not your government. This is a government that we happen to be living and operating under for this moment. And so we should take advantage of it the best way that we can. And we should try to do what we need to do in order to survive, and also do what we have to do in order to liberate ourselves. But this is not our government. Because see, to me, that's a crazy way of looking at it. It's like when you say, well, now, man, this is our government. So what you're telling me is that I oppress myself every day. What you're telling me is that I'm okay with the police stopping me for nothing. I'm okay with being shot and beat down by the cops on the pretext. I'm okay with being disenfranchised, right, where I can't vote. Or if I see somebody standing in the line, I can't even give them water. This is not my government, because I didn't pass those laws. I didn't create that stuff, and now I had no power over that. This is not my government. This is not my government where, you know, my kids can't get enough laptops or textbooks, but we send in billions of dollars to create more war machines. I don't have no power over that. I didn't vote for that. This is not my government. I didn't vote to oppress myself. I didn't vote to exploit myself. I didn't vote to beat my own people and me into the concrete. I didn't vote for that. I don't sign those bills. I didn't create that, that type of legislation. I don't fund trillions and trillions of dollars every year for the military. This is not my government. This is a government that I happen to live in at this particular point in my existence. So I participate in it, and I do what I have to do in order to survive and to help my community, my family, and my people. But this is not my government. Well, folks, okay, somebody says advocating a 10-day gasoline boycott from Earth Day to me. Well, yeah, the addiction to war is connected to the addiction to oil, but I mean, I do a lot of walking, I catch the bus, but people who got these cars and stuff, you start talking about boycotting the gas, they can't get around for 10 days. It's gonna be a struggle. But
You can put some in your car, just don't buy any more for
Okay.
10 days.
well, if you could last that long,
Do you think some of the reason why the United States isn't stepping in is because Russia is like a big super nuclear,
it's a nuclear power.
nuclear power,
Mhm.
and it could possibly start a nuclear
Mhm.
war? That's scary.
Brother Brian, time for us to go.
No, I'm just saying, I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
We do not need a nuclear war. That's going to destroy us all. They don't understand.
Well, we're gonna call it, y'all. Any other closing comments?
That's some of the reason why there's been a lot of talks of Africans going back to Africa. Going back to Africa and getting all the colonizers out of that continent.
Well, that's gonna have to happen too.
But
The bottom line is they have never,
We're
gonna have to be-
protect our country.
we're gonna have to be, they have never left Africa, just like they never left our communities, for real. Okay,
Definitely want to thank everybody for joining.
Yes.
all right, brother. Well, as the chicken said to the egg, or was it the egg who said it to the chicken? I'm out of here. So, all power
All
to the
power
people
to the people, free the
and free the
land.
land.
Everybody have a
land.
good and productive week.
There you
All
go.
power
And
to the people, free the land.
free the land and free all political prisoners.
Free land, all power to the people.
Bring them all.
That's right.
Thank you.
Hey, Dougie. Arnold.
Hey there, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
How you doing, Kathy?
In 1.4
Good
miles,
seeing you.
destination is on your right. Exit
What's that?
Good seeing you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Okay, it's good seeing everybody. Okay.
All right, y'all.
Absolutely, good seeing everyone.
I'm gonna stop.
Okay.